This is part 4. I'm going to press pause a bunch of times because I wanted just 5 parts with a 5th one that I'm going to tell you about during this one. But listen to this. This is the most shameful comment near the end here, okay, by Johan. Listen to this.
And even if you don't care too much about equity in the world, but rather are selfish, just focusing on yourself and your family and your
Look at his face when he says this.
life, which I think is a very respectful position to have.
It's kind of what he does,
as
right?
a human being struggling with everyday life. Still, you would want to come back to a safe
respectful, he
operating
says.
space.
So it's okay to respect
Everyone
people that
would
act
benefit immediately of having clean air,
like they're part of the
giving
problem.
more healthy and longer life expectancies. Your children would be healthier.
I'll finish this after, but I tell you, it's hard not to be angry watching this. It's hard not to be extremely disappointed. And if somebody tells me, oh no, Martin, I've seen the show, I know it's great, and they're not also upset with this show like I am, and for the same reasons, I tell you, again, I'm not gonna change everything that I say as the doctor of humanics regarding the state of the human condition and the illnesses that you suffer from that you're still not acknowledging. Okay, so I'm gonna finish up with a few points. I might press pause a few times. So, well, give me a second, I'll press pause. I'll go 1 point at a time and press pause. So, when I'm listening to this, right, somebody that is an ecocentric humanist, is I can see that the talk is about saving yourselves more than the other stakeholders, so other species, and I can see that your behaviors show that you're not even motivated enough to save your own kids. So not only are you not motivated and you're talking about saving yourselves more or less as a species, but it's really maybe more your family, but you're also showing that you do not have the skill sets and motivation and commitment, the conviction of the heart to save your own kids and grandkids. So much less the children of other species that are as important as you and sometimes as sentient and sapient as you are. What COVID-19 has shown me is that you are not well. Okay, so it didn't show me the planet is not well, the world, like you guys are saying, because you're still so center of the universe, but it showed me that your species, something I already knew, is not well. You know what else it showed me? Is that when you realized a little bit more that your systems, your social systems, your economic, your political, your lack of proper education systems failed you, your medical systems failed you, is I also saw that you couldn't cope with that. And this was a small pandemic, people, with what is coming. You're talking about these tipping points, and even if one of them is coming, it is infinitely more going to be needing a resiliency that you did not show during COVID. And you didn't learn from it. You really didn't learn from it. I posted the video a long time ago that you didn't learn from it. And I explained one of the reasons why. For example, when less planes were flying, that the Earth noticed. And that when, you're getting back to business as usual, the Earth will notice. I'd like to know why there's only some footage of Greta and why Greta was not invited and chose to participate in this because, and again, I think sometimes she might be happy to meet certain people, but if you give her a chance and her team to decide what she wants to say, it's not going to be resonating in the same shallow ecology. This is really shallow ecology 2021, this documentary, okay? And it says a lot of the same things from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Same old, same old. You're talking about, if we can only do this, if this is achievable. And the only way to achieve not that one thing, but all things, is what Isaac Asimov said decades and decades ago is the biggest environmental threat to this planet, is human overpopulation. And still, I think maybe 1 or 2 minutes left, and nobody's talking about this. No, you guys are talking about your families. Now, let's say you decide to recycle a bit more with your family, or sometimes go walking, to get your groceries or whatever. But, that tiny little change is great. But if you're adding 1 or 2 kids, or if somebody else in the world and their families are adding 1 or 2 kids because their poverty compensating for your riches forces them to do that, again, you're not connected to reality. So, a lot of people would say what Hitler was saying in his speeches was propaganda and dangerous propaganda, and I would say, and I would go in a public debate worldwide on the news live with any of you guys related to this documentary and how it is a modern version of deadly, toxic documentation tones, right? And I'm not saying the science is wrong, but I'm saying how you're spinning the science is, again, to go deeper in your denial, which will cause increased hardships for your kids and grandkids and the rest of the living creatures that deserve this life of quality. So, yeah, sure, plant a tree, but plant a human body under that tree, okay? And there's going to be plenty more human bodies dying of all sorts of things, not just COVID, heat stroke or whatever it is, malnutrition, respiratory issues. So instead of using incineration or getting a coffin, is plant one body under a tree. Plant a tree, and the family should say a prayer as that family or as that community of apology to the planet for the damage done by their species, and they're giving back by planting this tree. But it shouldn't be just a tree, right? You should be restoring a lot more portions of the ecosystems related to that tree. It's funny, your fake solutions, if we could only just change the diet, and yet diet is very much related to economy, right? It's a supply and demand that you want to keep growing with your populations, right? So unless you guys are attacking the scientists, these industries, and the politicians that support these industries, because you've got the fucking resources, sorry for the language, to do a documentary. So what do you think? Should you only say, hey, maybe you guys should do this? No! You're freaking on TV. You're David Attenborough. You should freaking say what you need to say with the listeners and the responsibility that comes with that many listeners. A good life for all citizens of the world. You know what I'd like to ask you in a public debate? How you define citizens of the world and a good life and for all, and how that would come. So yeah, circular economy is just a term like sustainability that is already hijacked as it's created, because it's already a concept that existed before our species. The recycling of nutrients, for example, and chemicals. And yet we think, we just have to, we understand this now. No, you're not admitting how you broke something, and that you're just naming something without saying you broke it. You understand it a tiny bit more, but you're not ready to say that you're breaking it, and you're it's out of your hands with all these followers that you have, that 9 out of 10 of you will keep breaking it, and you'll give a word to it. If only we can do this. Well, it's more like the rest of the biosphere. If only this species never would have came to be, because we already had sustainability for millions, billions of years on this planet. Sustainability in big part is a resiliency and a stability in a system that is becoming more complex, but also more resilient, that you can count on over time. And that's how your documentary started. It got to this stage, then your species shows up, and then your species says, if only we can rewrite history, that we're the one who created paradise. That's pretty much what you're saying.
You're coming back.
Define healthy children.
Also means we are more likely to live in societies with stable markets and stable jobs, which then reduces risks of conflict and instability where you're living. So all in all, you want to be in a safe space rather than being in a danger zone where everything is just in flux.
So why would a scientist, that I assume has to be a lifelong learner and would want to promote a scientific thinking, explorative kind of research, learning about our world, the wonders of the universe, what our brains are capable of. Why is he finishing on business talk. I don't know. I'll keep listening. I'll see what happens. Before, I wanted to say something else that I forgot. Give me a second. Well, I'm still waiting for an answer whether I'm going to get training as a volunteer firefighter for the third time I apply in Canada. So again, you got to ask yourselves, is Martin not showing enough commitment that he wants to learn these skills and be in service in this way? I'm also asking people, why is hemp so hard to find? I mean, there's so many advantages to that. Is it bad for other economies, you know? And you want me to believe that you want good, healthy things for everybody? I'm curious about who did the editing, why, when it looks like a few of the, the people talking were wanting to cry, and how the crying got cut out. And it got cut out pretty quick, that suddenly you kind of see the person is starting to get teary-eyed, and then suddenly the audio recording is not at all related to that emotion. It's incongruence, which is typical of your species. You're so disconnected from reality. So this is why, as part 5, I'll be posting a video of myself that I posted a while ago on Facebook, where I'm crying for Hamper Sandy, the Japanese macaque monkey that I worked with in South Korea, in a place that was just trying to make money with my identity to save what it was supposedly an animal rescue, where the animals needed to be rescued from there. And I cried a lot because Hamper Sandy, that's the name I gave her, had more sapience and sentience than 99.6 of the people primates that I meet. So that's kind of hard losing that when you feel so alone for most of your life. Okay, I do have anger, and this guy, he says, I don't get depressed, I get angry. I don't see it. I don't see his anger. But if he wasn't in a public debate with me, he would see my anger, and he would see my anger with him for allowing this great documentary to be more about shallow ecology than deep ecology. So anyways, let's watch the rest of this, and I'll finish being
What
pissed
we do
off.
between 2020 and 2030, from the evidence we have today, my conclusion is it will be the decisive decade for humanity's future on Earth.
My
The
opinion,
future's not
that
determined.
time has already passed.
The future is
It's
in our
already been
hands.
determined.
What happens over the next centuries will be determined of how we play our cards this decade.
It's a remarkable time to...
So here's what I realized the other day as a systems thinker, putting everything together without the denial that comes with your human chauvinism and your intellectual laziness, okay, and the desire to not compromise your elitist status roles, is I realize that things will get increasingly worse every year, okay, and it'll be exponential in different ways and different components of these destabilizations. Some will be, chemicals, some will be, climate, some will be political, some will be, access to foods. A lot of it will be related to your brains becoming more and more dysfunctional. That's what I've been talking about a lot. That's something that you can no longer reverse as well. That tipping point has been passed, and there's no way that pumping money into mental health and education when the people don't miraculously exist to be there to switch these tipping points in the other direction. They don't exist, these people. Those tipping points have been passed, so you can't, it's not like they retired these people and you bring them back, the people that would make the education and mental health systems functional. So you're screwed in that way. And you don't talk about this either here, how your brains as a species, people, it's not that somebody somewhere invented something or who had a nice speech is your species. And probably that person, if you study their entire life, there's a lot of hypocrisy and there's a lot of incongruence and probably a lot of dysfunction. And sometimes if you evaluate all these together, that person did more harm than good, especially if they became popular with their one solution. Because some of the other nonsense they say is more counterproductive with all these followers following them. That's a socio-cybernetic feedback loop, that you follow people that say things that aren't the right things at the right time of your histories. Whew, this video is getting long and I'm getting pissed off. Let me just finish this. Okay, now this idiot Johan, I'm sorry, I didn't think it'd get like this when I started watching it. Okay, I wanted to hear what he had to say, but there's more and more things he's saying that for me deserves a slap in the back of the head. he's saying that what if this asteroid was discovered? Okay, and scientifically speaking, we are capable of discovering, measuring, but only a few of us. Now, if COVID and this climate emergency didn't already tell you that you're not going to get people, you might get rich rich people, because they're not going to escape that without them getting together, or the governments, but still it's going to be fighting their own majority, which they have helped evolve these elites to become rednecks and dysfunctional and sabotage all these things. They're going to say, oh no, they're doing this to get us back to work, or they're saying this, and it's not true, because people can't see an asteroid until it's close enough to be visible, and if it's that big, it's probably too late. So again, people can't see COVID here right now. Okay, so in BC here right now, I think I heard the other day that the mask is not mandatory, but wear it at your own discretion. Okay, so do you know how many people stopped wearing masks when still they could have kept wearing them a little bit longer to protect themselves, their families, their loved ones, and strangers? They don't know who got a shot or not. They don't know who is sick or not, if they're sick or not. They don't know anything right now. So this great social experiment is pretty much telling me that even when you believe in something, maybe the effort is optional.
It's now clear from the science that the planetary crisis we are facing requires the same united response.
I would say that we do not have environmental problems in the world anymore. Destabilizing the planet, the risk of destabilizing the planet, is a question of security and stability for all societies in the world. Therefore, it is a question for the Security Council. I think one should put the planetary boundaries right at the center of the most strategic top governance level we have.
Okay, so this idiot, now I'm saying idiot, this idiot is either so much in denial or doesn't know anything about how corrupted and dysfunctional the UN is. And even if it wasn't, even if you disband it and you start something new, like if it's not the League of Nations, United Nations, whatever else you want to give a fancy term, is you still have your people, the species, the Homo communia, the people primates, at the head of any organization that they may create. It's still going to be corrupted. It's still not going to do what it's supposed to do, because you're not addressing what's wrong up here. And he's got plenty of things wrong up here, and it's dangerous.
In the world, which is the United Nations Security Council.
Such a global response is now within reach as never before.
There's something bigger happening right now, which is that one species, we humans, are such a dominant force on the planet in a way that we haven't seen across the eons over the past 4 billion years.
Okay, what requires clarity here is that we have power of destruction. We don't have power of repair or creation. Before it says, what if a future where there's even more wildlife, or I don't know if they were even saying more biodiversity, as if we would create more, in some sort of miracle way in a short period of time. There's really a lot of human chauvinism. And so you have to talk about the only thing that's important about us as a species, where we will be very quick making technology for mining or for consumption or for counter-terraforming paradise. We will not apply technology that is meant to deviate from the norm and save ourselves, So it's kind of ridiculous saying that we can.
Science and in the world of observation now means we've covered the whole planet with knowledge. What if we're now entering a new, unique geological epoch that is not only geophysically defined, but also defined by the fact that we have a new consciousness embedded inside the planet?
Well, I'll tell you what, if we're at the root of a collective consciousness on the planet is screwed.
Thanks to the work of scientists like Johann Rockström, we now have the capacity to act as Earth's conscience. its
Oh my
brain.
God. Oh my God. The
Thinking
human
and
chauvinism.
acting with one unified purpose, to ensure that our planet...
That's what I believed a long time ago until I learned things, including things that they're teaching in this documentary, and realized that that's an idealistic future that prevents us from working on mitigation ventures. My storage is getting low. That was the sound before. So in a way here I'll be plagiarized with my ecocentric humanism worldview, okay? Except that this was entirely anthropocentric, this documentary.
Thinking
So,
and acting with one unified
who needs to
purpose,
take my course when they
to
think they're
ensure
already
that
there,
our
right?
planet forever remains healthy and resilient. The perfect home.
Perfect home would be for you guys to be a victim.